All right, welcome back to the Productivity Hub, where productivity habits unlock breakthroughs. We're focused here on helping our small and mid-sized businesses and organizations leverage the Google and Microsoft business applications they already have to become more productive, help to create their productivity culture around their core software, and prepare them to integrate AI features, integrations, other software tools as they emerge so they can supercharge their productivity over time. We talked to a lot of different experts with a lot of different backgrounds. Our expert today, we're especially excited to connect with, is Dmitri Smirnov of Big Life Marketing. Now, he grew Big Life Marketing from a one-man band into a thriving company. He's an expert in YouTube ads, Google ads, marketing, and strategy. He's taken over 10 businesses from $100,000 to $1 million per month with Google Ads. He helps info products and e-commerce brands profitably scale their revenue. So, Dmitri, it's great to have you. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Jacob. I'm doing really well. Excited to talk productivity.
Excellent. So our kind of real topic today is going to be in your home turf, where you're focused on daily and where you're adding the most value to businesses, which are the Google ads and YouTube ads in marketing. And can you kind of say like why that's important to businesses today, whether they're using it or not? Like why is it important that they be thinking about the role that that plays in their business and what kind of impact that can have?
Well, businesses have always relied on marketing in general to get the word out and to get more customers and prospects. It used to be a lot more difficult than it is now. You had to buy TV time or maybe something in a magazine or radio when that started to come out. But now we have at the tip of our fingers instant ability to reach millions of people, our exact target audience, through text, through display, static images, or even through video on YouTube ads by using the Google Ads platform to advertise.
Mhm. Excellent. Now, when we think about our marketing framework, we'll focus on foundation first, which is a business's website, and that it hits all the trust points, what we call like the trust tipping points, communicates what they do, how they do it, who they do it for, and the other elements that people that are already visiting there will need to have so that they feel comfortable enough trust to move forward with the next step. We'll typically couple that with their online reputation and consider that foundation, and making sure that's really checked off and in place before moving on to what we would consider like active searchers, people that are looking for their products and services in them. And do they have the visibility? Are they getting those eyeballs? And then finally, the passive prospects, all the people that are a great fit for their products and services, maybe not looking right now today, need maybe those multiple touches need to be activated as future buyers. When you're thinking about YouTube and Google ads, what's like the framework you're thinking through? How are you assessing the landscape and opportunity and like checking off those boxes?
Well, depending on the average order value or lifetime value of your customer, you might be okay advertising just the bottom of the funnel where it's people who already know you, who are going to buy from you anyway, and they just need a reminder.
Mhm.
And they're very high converters and you can afford to pay for them. But let's say you have a very expensive product and you have a nice website that converts well, maybe even the prospects who are unaware that your solution exists, you can afford to pay several times for multiple touches because ultimately you might spend $100 in acquiring a customer, but you'll get $1,000 from them selling your product. And so, depending on the margin that you have, your gross margin, that works out really nicely typically. So it does first depend on what you're selling, but YouTube and Google Ads is a platform that can work for finding every single buyer along the buyer's journey. From the top of the funnel, people who've never heard of you, never heard of the product, never even heard of the problem in the first place. They don't even know they have the problem.
Mhm.
You can reach them, and to the people who have an emergency plumbing situation in their house and they need someone over immediately.
Right.
Google can handle that too.
So you're handling that all the way from like the local maps ads and what is it, Google verified in the search ads and those active searchers on into all the passive prospect strategies, which will be banners, overlay text on videos, pre-roll videos, that whole landscape.
Well, in our company, in Big Life Marketing, we primarily work more so on the holistic marketing approach and not just those local bottom of the funnel need your service now.
Mhm.
That's a little bit of a different niche, but a very important niche on in Google Ads that I would be happy to speak to a little bit more in detail. And what we normally handle are companies that advertise nationally or internationally, whether it's e-commerce or a high ticket coaching program or anything in between.
Mhm.
Those types of ads need to start with more awareness based, but still every single ad, every single piece of copy needs to be curated in such a way that there's a point in moving the prospect forward to the next step and the next step. And we never want to waste space. We never want to waste a word. And in video, we never want to waste a second of ad time.
Excellent. So we talked a little bit about why this is so important. This is a way for businesses that really it's easier than it ever has been to connect with the right people for their brand, their products and services. We talked a little bit about the framework that you think about advertising through, and then you described two sides to marketing: the math and statistics side and the creative side, and that these must be approached separately at first and then combined for maximum effect. Can you talk about each of those and how do you do that? Is that one person that does that? Is that like entirely different skill sets? How do you collaborate around that? How do you look at those two pieces and then do this thing to combine them?
Well, one person can do everything, and it really depends on the size of the business. If you are running a local business or you have a store, you have brick and mortar, something like that, you can, as the business owner, you can actually do Google Ads yourself.
Mhm.
When you get to a more scaled level where you're spending $100,000 a month or more in ad spend, it becomes important to separate that task to more experts who, because every 1-2% difference is such a big difference at that scale. So at our company, there's different people who do creative and the math side, but not only that, they're inside the creative department. There's
Mhm.
copywriting, there's ad design, there's video filming, there's video editing, and there's actually more than that. So every single piece of that needs to have an expert who is looking at it from a performance marketing perspective. How is this, again, how is this one advertisement, but even more granularly than that, how is each piece of this one advertising propelling the prospect forward to eventually buying from us? And like you mentioned, it really is two completely separate fields that do combine at the end, because once you do create an advertisement, which is psychology based, it's catching your eye. You have to have a hook, bring someone in, deliver some value, and then ask for action. That's what an ad really is. That's the creative side. And once that creative is running, we have to understand, did it work? Yes or no? And also, did it work well in comparison to the alternatives?
Mhm.
And that's the math and statistics side, where we need to run an analysis on the data.
Yeah, and so when we're first uh, deciding on a campaign, we need to assess like our audience size and reach, like what's the opportunity we're going after, and then we're kind of running the numbers backwards, like you were saying, to say, okay, like here's a win for us. Here's how much we can invest in getting this customer. Anything below that is a win. Anything above that is going to need to be checked to
Yeah.
some degree.
Right. And all successful marketing starts with doing your homework first. You
Mhm.
have to actually know how much each customer is worth to you. If you don't know that number, you don't know how much you're going to be able to pay for them. Not only do you need to know how much they're worth to you from a revenue perspective. You need to know what the margin is on every additional customer that you get. Ideally, the more customers you get, you go into a scaling factor where actually your overhead and your marginal cost for each additional fulfillment goes down, so your profit goes up. There are cases where it's the opposite, and you might be actually capped at how much you can scale because for whatever reason. So the point is you have to know these numbers before you even start. So if you know that I can, to break even, I'm not going to make any money, but I'm definitely not going to lose any money if I spend $200 to acquire a customer. I know that within, this is the second part of this. Okay, so first is the number, the dollar amount, how much, and then the time amount, because a customer could be worth X amount over 30 days, but by day 90, they're worth 2x. By day 365, they're worth 10x potentially, and that would be a great business. And you need to decide as the business owner over what period of time do you want that break even to be. Sometimes you want to break even on day one or even make a profit. That might cap your scale, but you can make that decision. So those are the two variables that are extremely important to know before you even start marketing.
So what is the initial value, and then what is the value over time, and what term are you going to use to benchmark this against?
Right. And so I can give you an example. For example, you're a business owner that sells, you have a brick and mortar store and you sell physical products of some sort. And you come to find out that your first time purchaser on average spends $100 with you. But you also know that they come in every 90 days and spend another $100 with you. So you can make a decision. And by the way, your margin, let's say, is 50%. So you can, so on day one, you're going to make $100 on them. You're profiting $50. So you could say, well, I'll spend $50 to acquire that customer and I'll break even on day one. That's great because everything after that is absolute gravy. You're just going to make profit. But again, you might be limited by how many customers you're able to acquire at that price. Another decision you can make is I'll spend $100 to acquire that customer, lose $50 on day one, even though they bought 100 from me. Remember that it's only a $50 profit. So you're losing the $50, but 90 days later, they spend another 100, you make another 50 on them. Now you've broken even over 90 days. But the trade-off now, you've gotten 5 times as many customers because you spent $100 to acquire a customer instead of 50. There's a lot more audience for that price. So it's a cash flow issue. It's an inventory issue. But ultimately, the data just decides for you, and there's always an optimal spot.
Awesome. Thank you. So now that we've entered the sort of rapid boom in AI features, tools, emergent, what are you guys actively using? How does that change the way that you're doing advertising and marketing? Tell us some of the like tools and features you've been leveraging.
We're using a ton of different tools, and all of them consider themselves AI, even though many of these tools have been around for years and years and weren't considering themselves AI. So for those who are potentially overwhelmed by AI, I'm here to tell you that it's just another name typically for tools that have already existed. So it's not that complicated to use them. In fact, in many cases, it's very easy to use them. So we use them across the entire agency. So starting from creative, every single piece of content that we write, whether it's a 30-character headline, a 90-character description, or a several-minute YouTube ad script, we always put it through ChatGPT first, or later. We're always working with ChatGPT. How do we make this? We'll prompt ChatGPT. How do we make this simpler? How do we make this clearer? How do we make this more persuasive? How do we make this or that? If we're having writer's block and we can't even come up with the headlines to begin with, we're asking it to come up with, give me 10 ideas, give me 10 more ideas, and start working off that. It turns an average copywriter into an expert. Now, another thing that it does, it turns a mediocre copywriter into pretty much not relevant anymore. So that's it's really separating the good and the bad, and it leverages a good copywriter to do 5 to 10 times as much work or better work than they used to do. So it's highly effective. It's not replacing everybody. It's replacing some people who don't know how to use the tool.
Right.
You know, so they're still, let's say, using horse and buggy, whereas the rest of us are flying on airplanes. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
Um,
We've seen how much we leverage it for so many different ways, but similar ways that if we're stuck in terms of the initial concept that we just want to lay out, we're using it there, and then we're deep diving into every different element. It's kind of a constant member of our team now, always involved in our questioning processes.
Yes, and there's more to it, by so that's just the content side, and you can do things with images. You can also do research with it, and there's other tools, but ChatGPT kind of does everything. But you can plug in a piece of content that's written by your company already, and you can say, come up with a marketing angle. You can ask it, what is my audience? Or you can tell it, here's my audience, come up with some content ideas. And by the way, not everything marketing is paid ads.
Yeah.
You can do organic YouTube, you can do Facebook posting, you can do so many different things, and all these AI tools will help you. And here's another one that I really like that we use is Opus Clip.
Mm-hmm.
Opus Clip just cuts up our long form content of our clients and makes it into short form. We can always edit with it, but it just saves a lot of time. And there's tons of these. We can work with keywordsearch.com to find better audiences. We can use Descript for translations because we work with a Spanish audience, but whatever language that your target audience is in, Descript. And here I'll finish with this one. There's a new tool. I'll see if I can remember the name, but there's a tool that you plug in a video of yourself speaking, and that tool can then recreate you speaking with any script. So you don't even have to
Be
record
human.
video.
Be
That's
human.
one of them, correct.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a ton of them that just accelerates productivity.
Yeah. Yeah. That particular one was really interesting. There are two things I was looking at there. So there was the one was creating basically like a replica of yourself. So you can create a knowledge base, and now you have something that can interact. And as long as it's been trained with answers to certain questions, it's like you and there. Now, whether that can truly show up for a meeting, and I suspect not, but it's an interesting concept and direction. The other one is basically leveraging it just like you would for merge fields, but in the case of a video. So I could say, hey, first name, and then it's going to plug in, hey, Dmitri, thanks so much for joining Productivity Hub, and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. We're looking at another new one that I think has gone crazy on ads, but I don't know. I'm not deep enough into it yet to make a recommendation one way or another. Have you seen all of this like buzz or seen in your feed around Air AI, the conversational AI that the utility of it is for outbound or inbound calls that are coming to be able to interact with a conversational AI that has good languaging, empathetic, right? Really impressive from the demo side of it. And also I think probably one of the most compelling ad formats I've crossed paths with for a while, because as soon as I was like clicked on it and heard what it was up to, I was like, I listened all the way through that thing multiple times to try to get what it was up to and capable of.
Yes. And just to note on this, the biggest pushback that I get from clients, from prospects of our business is, I don't want to use AI or AI generated voice, AI generated video, because it's not authentic and people aren't going to buy. Ultimately, that's the objection, is that they're not going to get as many sales.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I mean, testing will decide that. But what we see is that it really depends on your price point. We are already trained as a society to talk to robots when we're calling into customer support, we're
Yeah.
trying to change our flight, or calling our insurance company, whatever the case may be. We're used to that. And so when it comes to buying something, if we have to spend $500 or less, typically we are completely okay with using an automated system. Some of our clients sell things for $25,000 certifications. That actually does in fact require more personalized attention, where that human connection still matters. They want the face-to-face, whether even if it's on Zoom, that's totally fine. But
Right.
they actually have a real person to talk to. And you know what? Even if that person is saying the exact same thing that an AI is, just knowing that it's a real person gives them comfort when they are spending that high ticket dollar amount.
Yeah, when I imagine it for us, for example, the depth of the relationship that we're going to have with a business's technology and their strategy and like that, it could never take it all the way across the finish line, but it could put somebody in our calendar, and it could take an inbound call and route it to the right person, the right department, and so on.
Yeah, it's really a great tool. And all these tools, really, the way I see them is that they're allowing for us to spend more time on the things that we actually like doing and the things that actually have a result from it.
Mhm.
And what I mean by kind of what you're saying, echoing what you're saying, is that you guys can spend now more time on those highly selected sales calls rather than trying to figure out where to route people. Are they qualified? Should they be even on a phone call? Should they just go into the email automation? That all goes away now. So we get to spend more time, or we can use that time and hang out with our kids or go on vacation. So either way is kind of a win-win.
Yeah, exactly. Just like constantly sloughing off the low value repetitive work, giving a better and more prompt like user experience for the customer. Definitely appreciate those directions. Back to some of the AI creative tools. So, like early on, with ChatGPT, you get exposed to OpenAI's products, and GPT was like mind blowing. And then you hop over to their DALL-E, and you just create these weird mutant images and such at the time, right? But I've seen now these threads on the latest version of DALL-E, and it seems to have jumped up tremendously in its capabilities. Is that something you're using, or like what are some of your favorite creative generative tools here now?
That is, we are using that, and I'll explain in a second how to use that better. Um, there's the Adobe one. I don't remember exactly the name. One thing we use
Is
this
that the
plugin.
Firefly?
Yeah, I mean we kind of dabble with all of them just to see what they'll spit out.
Right.
Um, but we have I think it's a plugin. It's a browser plugin. There's an AI for that. So anytime we have something, it just shoots us over to the site. Like, okay, let's use this one. So
Yeah.
eventually, this is still all new. I think
Yeah.
that at this point we have our few favorites that we're using 90% of the time, and then 10% we're still experimenting with things, because I am sure that there will still be there's better softwares out there than what we're using, but sometimes it's just good enough to use something.
Like as
Uh,
Sam Altman says, it's as bad as it's ever going to be, right? Oh, it's only going to get better, right?
yeah, and to the,
Yeah.
the point of Dolly, it really is getting better all the time, and it also matters what the prompt that you give is and what your expectation is. So there's a big difference between pulling up a new instance of ChatGPT and saying, draw me an ad for a contractor in from Dallas, Texas. Okay, that's not a very advanced prompt. But if you actually spend the time and become a prompt engineer, which, guys, is not that difficult, you're just teaching as if you were teaching a person about your business, you're teaching
Yeah.
the AI about your business, then request it. Also show examples. Here's some that work. Don't do this, do this, and keep building that knowledge base of your instance, and then it'll actually give you good feedback. And you can also ask, here's an image. Tell me what you don't like about it in the context of my audience and my business, and it'll actually give you a nice result.
Hmm. Excellent. So that's how you're using it today. continuing to explore a little bit, kind of honing in on your favorites and your tools. Do you have some like forward-looking predictions or forecast over the months and years to come around where you kind of see this going, how you see this changing your business, the way you deliver services and value?
Yes, I think that as we go forward, having a bare minimum quality of content will be standard. So
Hmm.
now there's a wide spectrum of quality, let's say, because anybody can, just like when the internet first came out and people started doing geo sites, websites, or whatever came before that, there were some better sites and there were some mostly ugly sites. And
Yeah.
now, for the most part, there's a minimum level of quality that's even acceptable to the average customer. If they see a site that's built in 1995, they're going to bounce right off of it. So what's going to happen is that all ads will improve. And this is really great news for everybody because ads have a bad reputation, first of all.
Yeah. Yeah.
People don't like seeing ads, even though oftentimes ads present really great products for you that it would improve your life if you gave them a chance.
Hmm.
But they do get a bad reputation because there are bad products out there that advertise too. Maybe they're scams, and it's disrupting you from what you were wanting to do initially. But here's what's going to change is that advertisement will become content that you look forward to seeing because of how compelling it becomes. So when
How
you're watching
compelling,
a
how specific to you and what you're looking for and interested in, and so on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're watching a YouTube video, your ad that pops up and interrupts you might be more relevant to what you're looking for than the video that you selected yourself.
Hmm.
So that's the future. It's actually really exciting for marketers because we can actually um, give users a positive experience now.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Back when in like 2017, I was in crypto, we had token agency. It was kind of the ICO, initial coin offering boom at the time. And we got into some programmatic advertising partnerships with some of the large platforms that were aggregating, like crypto users so we could target our ads to them. And one thing that we thought was interesting was this idea, right now that everywhere we go, we're basically being followed. Information's being collected from us, off of us, so that these audiences can be aggregated and that an advertiser then can do its best job to target. Um, One direction we thought was like, oh, well, maybe it'll be that people have the ability to choose, which brands they want to interact with, which brands they want to be able to expose their information to, um, that brands would uh, be able to spend more per individual because they had a higher level of buy-in rather than having to do just like a broad swath, right? Of let me hit anybody who could potentially be interested in this, but narrowing it down. Do you see that kind of happening in this space as well? Still, like, are we still on track for people being able to have some agency in how they filter this down, or will it still be like mainly centralized platforms that continue to make these improvements?
The funny thing is that our ability to target granularly is actually going away.
Mm-hmm.
We're able to do that less and less. We used to be able to target specific YouTube videos. On Facebook, the targeting used to be robust. And now, especially after their Cambridge Analytica situation a few years ago, there's just a lot less that we know about the prospects.
Mm-hmm.
But what's happening on the back end of all this is opposite. So what you were saying is we used to target broadly, then granularly. We're actually going back to targeting broadly because of how good the platforms are at identifying who's actually making a purchase. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with poker, but I used to be a poker player.
Oh, you
Uh,
got that look, Dmitri.
And with poker, things have actually, and I haven't really been up to date as much as I used to be when I was playing, but the theory of poker has evolved in such a way where it used to be trying to predict what the other person's cards are,
Mm,
like exactly their two cards. Now theory has gone more into their range. What is their possible range of cards? And it's just a different game completely, and it's more broad,
mhm.
surprisingly, and against our intuition. It's way more broad. And so same thing is going on with marketing. But these algorithms are getting so good. So it's not about targeting anymore as much as it is telling the algorithm, who do you want, who, okay, here, I'm going to give you exactly what this is. It's not, it's conversion tracking is becoming extremely important. Before, you might set up some ads, target your specific audience, and whether you have the back end set up with conversion tracking properly or not, you would convert because that's your audience. Now that we can't
Yeah.
target them anymore, we have to tell Google ads, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, or whatever platform you're doing, yes, this customer specifically, they not only did they fill out my form, not only did they get on a phone call with me, but they actually purchased the product. And that cycle might be 90 days or 180 days for some businesses, but we have to import that back in and tell Google, hey, this is the one. Because by the way, there's spam out there still. There's click farms. There's
Yeah.
people in other countries that are just clicking on ads for whatever reason. And there are reasons for it, and it's not for nothing. um, um, but that's really the key, is telling the algorithm who you want.
If I hear you right, is the distinction from I'm looking for a person with these qualities to instead I'm looking for a person that has taken this action.
Exactly.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, great. So, um, what else is important to cover in this space right now? Well, let's talk about what's going on in your world. So, what's exciting at biglifemarketing.com and what kind of ways can people get engaged with you?
Well, at biglifemarketing.com, we focus specifically on Google ads and YouTube ads. And YouTube is part of Google and is part
Yep.
of the Google ecosystem. That's why we include it. But some people don't know that. So that's why we mention both things. So we do Google ads specifically. And what we do, and we're very good at doing this, is making Google ads your number one traffic source. So most of the time, entrepreneurs, small businesses, they'll start advertising once they get into paid advertising, which by the way, you shouldn't do just right away. And like we talked about the onset of this call, but there's actually more to it, which we can talk about after. Um, but once you do get into paid advertising, typically you'll start with Facebook ads, and it can be successful if you have the right offer. Google is sometimes a little bit more challenging, and that's where we come in. We start building up your search campaigns, display campaigns, scripting your YouTube ads, and making sure the landing pages are actually congruent for Google ads specifically, because people who are using Google uh, are in a different state of mind, and depending on their campaign type, they're in a different state of mind. If they're using search, if they're using video, it's all different.
Right.
Um, so we work with companies that advertise nationwide or internationally. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking you want Google Ads to be your number one traffic source, and you have a product that can be sold nationwide, we're actually giving away free account audits and action plans for the next 30 days. And we typically charge $500 to $7,500 for these. And we've decided to run this promotion here for the next 30 days. So a lot of people are really excited about it. And we're excited about looking through the accounts, see how we can help you guys and jumpstart that traffic on Google Ads for you.
Perfect. Yeah, we should take advantage of that too. Okay, excellent. So let's go ahead and conclude the public portion of this episode with that offer. You guys should snap into action on that. And for our members, so if you're wondering like, oh, what does that mean to be a Productivity Hub member? Go ahead and click the link in the description below, because we always have our public episodes, and then we always keep some goodies specifically for the members on our platform, tie this together with our courses, and lessons, and make sure that our members are getting something extra from our experts. So I think what we're going to focus on with Dmitri here today is simply a really organized way to how to assess if and when advertising is right for your business. So if you got some value from this episode here today, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment. The comments that are most useful to us are what you got the most value from and what else you would like to learn from Dmitri next, so that when we have him back on, we can make sure that we cover that topic. So for now, thank you so much, and we'll go ahead and move into some member content. All right, and so now for our Productivity Hub members, today we're going to focus on a process that you can use to assess if and when advertising is right for your business. So we said, well, should we do a screen share on this? So like, no, let's just go ahead and think through these specific steps. So Dmitri, I don't have to look at that screen anymore. I can expand here. And let's get into that. So a lot of different types of businesses. We've got solo businesses, we've got service businesses, product businesses. Some are, customers are going to be exclusive to a local geography. Others are going to be more expansive. What's the first set of criteria people should go through to assess if and when advertising fits in?
Going back to what we talked about at the beginning of the call, is you really have to understand your business numbers or KPIs, or however you want to call them. You just have to know these things before you advertise. So once you do know that, you have your LTV over a period of time, how much your customer's worth over 90 days, you know your margins, you know how much you can spend to acquire a customer. So now you go to the next step, is just figuring out, how am I already acquiring customers? Let's say you're a local business and most of your customers are coming from Google My Business profile or Yelp or something like that.
Active
Yeah.
searchers that are looking for your products and services and choosing you, which usually means that you've done something right in terms of your local reputation, that you're getting those calls and clicks.
Yes, it could be that, or they could be searching for the solution that you offer and happen to click on your business. A lot of times in local businesses, there's, let's say, 10 competitors in your 25-mile radius.
Right.
So depending on the ranking that you have on that particular, whether it's the map result, organic search result, or Yelp result, you will get a certain percentage of that traffic coming to your business.
Right.
So the question you have to ask yourself is, first is that traffic source profitable for you? Hopefully it is. And most of the time it is, if it's your first one and your business is profitable. So you have to decide, am I maxing this traffic source out? Is there anything else I can do for this particular traffic source, which is already working for me? What else can I do with it?
Mm-hmm.
If you decide that it's completely maxed out, there's nothing you can do, you're already showing up first in Google Map results. And by the way, this doesn't apply just to local businesses, it applies to any business. Once you've already maxed out the traffic source that's getting you customers already, you have to move on to the next step, but you have to decide what next step is best for you. Paid ads is not the only answer that's out there. You can do outbound sales, you can cold call people, you can email them, you can post content for free on your Instagram or your YouTube channel. Organic YouTube is a wonderful way to get customers. So producing content that way. Now there's an expense to that. There's a time expense, there's editing expenses and things like that. And it also matters. There's a question of, do you have extra resources? If you do, then maybe paid ads will be a faster way for you to get more traffic. If you don't have extra resources, but you're looking to just dip your toe into the water, I would go the organic route.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you have an extra $5,000 or more per month to spend as an experiment, and being okay with losing it all for 6 months in a row, because sometimes that's how long it takes to optimize things, get things going. then you should consider the paid ads route. And you got to figure out, am I going to start with Facebook? Am I going to start with Google? Am I going to start with YouTube? And that really depends on your audience. Where is your audience? Okay, so there's offers that work better on certain channels. So you have to pick the right one first.
Mhm.
So once you pick the right one, then just put up a campaign. These ad platforms are not complicated. They're making it as easy as possible for anyone to do. You don't have to hire an agency. In fact, I don't think you should hire an agency until A, your offer is proven, people are buying it,
Mhm.
and B, you're already spending at least $5,000, preferably $10,000 in ad spend per month, and it's kind of working. At least that's a good time to start looking into an agency.
Because an
Um,
agency at that point is going to be able to uh like whatever you're going to pay them in terms of management and optimization, you're at that point you've got a higher likelihood of getting actual ROI on the value that they're going to add to that campaign.
yes, you have to consider the agency cost. Now, a good agency is going to be a profit source for you, meaning you paying them only brings you as a business owner more money. Even though you're paying more out of pocket, you're
Yeah.
getting a higher return because of the extra leverage the agency has as creating better ads, targeting a better audience, training the algorithm properly, and just being experts in their field. That's just going to multiply your efforts as a business owner. That's kind of the step, and I'm happy to dissect any one of those in more detail if you'd like.
Yeah, well, let's kind of summarize, and then we are getting close, so I think we might be about there. Know your numbers, step one. Step two, know your existing main traffic lead sales source. Step three, make sure you've optimized everything you can about what is already working. Then when it comes to experimentation, you need to decide, do you have more basically time or money? And if you've got time and resources there, you can experiment with more organic and investment there. If you've got some money and capital available to burn, you can spend it on testing. If you have some of both, you can try both and see which one grows best. Then you start on your own, right? Get to know the platform, get to know yourself, prove some level of success, and then look to partner up with an agency and scale that out.
Yes, and assuming you have a good product, which I hope that you do, product or service, using ads can multiply the scale of your business. So it's kind of a hockey stick growth potentially, and it could take a few months, but it's worth experimenting when you're ready. It really can make a huge difference.
Excellent. Since we are right there at the hour, I know we probably both have next things to get onto. Um, is there anything else you want our members specifically to know? Or I think our members should basically just take you up on the same offer that you gave our listeners, which is to engage with you for this free audit, so they can see where it stands and where it fits in their business and the stage that they're at right now.
Absolutely, and that's the way to do it. Go to biglifemarketing.com and fill out that form. Let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you, Dmitri. Very happy to know you and look forward to digging more as all this world continues to expand. We're going to have lots of fresh content and insights to discuss.
All right, thank you. Happy to be here.